Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your libertarian car guy. Excuse my voice, I picked up a summer cold, so if I sound a little creaky, that's why. Anyway, I wanted to show you a couple of interesting things about the 2019 M35i, which is the high-performance variant of the X2, which I reviewed in its standard issue form a few months ago. And some of you who are hip will know that the X2 is basically a chop-roof version of the X1, BMW's compact crossover SUV, and the X1 itself is a kissing cousin of the Mini Countryman. A lot of people don't realize that Mini, which is a historically British brand, is actually owned by the Germans, and there's been some cross-pollination, and the first example of that is the X1, which is also, I think, BMW's first front-wheel drive platform vehicle. BMW historically has been a rear-wheel drive manufacturer. But anyway, the interesting things that I wanted to point out about the M35i, it's essentially a further enhanced version of the John Cooper Works version of the Mini Countryman. Instead of 228 horsepower, the 2-liter turbocharged 4 has been amped up to 302, and actually I suspect it's a bit more than 302 in the first place, because this thing is a lot quicker than a Mini Countryman JCW. It gets to 60 in about 4.8 or 4.9 seconds, and the JCW Countryman gets there in about 6. Now granted, there's about a 74 horsepower disparity on paper, but I think there might be more, which brings me to the topic, or at least the main topic of this video. One of the things that you get in most BMWs is this sport display. I'm going to try and hone in on that, and it's essentially an in-car chassis dynamometer that shows you how much horsepower and torque the engine is putting out in real time as you drive, according to how far down you're pushing the gas pedal, and so on. And as you can see on this thing, the horsepower dial indicates all the way up to 320. I have found that under full throttle acceleration, the needle actually punches up to what looks like about 310 horsepower. Now, the rumor mill has it that BMW traditionally underrates the horsepower of the engines that it puts in its vehicles, including particularly the M vehicles, so it's kind of a nice little perk. You're not only buying a very powerful car, you're actually buying a more powerful car than advertised, so you're actually getting a little bit more for your money, which is cool. I'm going to show you that in action here in a minute. The other thing that you get in this car, in addition to the different styling, of course, this has that chop roof look that defines the X2 series, but the other thing that you get, in addition to the very cool BMW backlighting, and of course typically higher zoot BMW leather and all of that, versus what you'd find in the Mini, which is a nice vehicle, but nonetheless this is a little bit of a cut above. The M35 also has one of those active exhaust systems, which is very enjoyable, and you'll hear that in a minute. And essentially what it's got is the equivalent of a wastegate, an additional wastegate in the system, so that when you're really going at it, the baffle will open up to relieve back pressure and let the engine really sing and make a lot of power. So I'm gonna head out here on the road to give you a little show and demonstration of both things. I want you to watch the needles here in particular. You'll probably be able to hear the exhaust, but I want you to watch the needle and see whether you see what I see. Okay, here we go. I know that was shaky. It's hard to do this without an intern or an assistant, but hopefully you saw that the needle racked all the way up to what looked like 310 and maybe even a little bit more horsepower. And I'll tell you what, that's a lot out of a 2-liter engine. Just for some historical context, one of the most powerful and near and dear to my heart muscle cars that was ever made was the 1973-74 Pontiac Super Duty 455 Trans Am, which had a 7.5-liter V8 for all you millennials. 7.5 liters of V8, and that engine was rated between 290 and 310 horsepower out of an engine literally 3 times the size. So that's a measure of what the engineers have been able to do in the intervening 40-something years to really get a ton of power out of these little engines, and also pretty good fuel economy too, surprisingly, and you'll read about this in my review on the site. The gas mileage of this M35i, at least on paper, is better than the Mini Countryman JCWs, despite being substantially more powerful and a lot quicker. So anyway, just wanted to show you that. More on site. Thanks for viewing. If my voice doesn't fail me, I will be talking with Bill Meyer over at KMED in Oregon later this morning, and I'll have that also up on the site. So again, thanks for bearing with my terrible voice and my cold, and we will catch up with you again soon.